Do you feel comfortable talking about Darren Droz's injury?
Yeah, I do. Definitely not one of my brighter days. Probably the worst day of my life. I'm talking in terms of wrestling in real life. That's an instant downer for me.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
Probably about 6 months ago. He and I, we were never close before the accident, and I don't know how an accident can draw two people closer. And then, you know, there's heat with his wife and me, for some reason, I don't know. You know, she puts a lot of blame on things. Droz and I have talked about it on several occasions. We don't know what went wrong. Out of respect, we don't watch the tape. I can clear up a few misnomers. It wasn't a fan throwing ice in the ring, or throwing garbage in the ring, or I didn't slip. It was just, and it could have been anybody in the ring with him that night. It just happened to be me. Happened to be my sad misfortune to be in the ring with him. And because of that, you know, a man's paralyzed. People ask me all the time, does that affect me? Hell, yeah. If it didn't, I wouldn't be human. For probably about a year, I wrestled differently. I second-guessed everything I did. And that was probably, I should have taken time off. And if it hadn't been for, you know, Jim Ross really talking to me, I was going to quit the business. I was done. I was this close to saying, the hell with it. I couldn't, because no one ever got hurt on my watch. No one has sense. You know, and someone is trusting me to give me their body. I want them to walk out of the ring the same condition they came in. And that's one thing I prided myself on. And really, I was really close to quitting. Like I said, Jim Ross sat down with me, and we had a long, probably 3-hour conversation full of football references and how we all know the risks going into the game. How it could have been anybody. He eventually turned me around and made me want to continue wrestling. But I mean, that accident not only affected me professionally, but personally. I mean, I was a whole different person. You know, I almost separated from my fiance during that time. You know, I'm not a party guy, but all of a sudden I was just living life like there was no tomorrow. Ass wide open, just gone, because I didn't know what to do. And that was my way of, I was depressed, I didn't know it. So my way of trying to get rid of my depression was to party. And that took about a year where I didn't know really what was going on.
The night in Nassau Coliseum is the night that I got hurt. I had actually wrestled my first match there, was against Dr. Tom Pritchard for the WWE, and he wore a mask, and got my first win there actually. Then the night I got hurt was also Nassau Coliseum. Actually, I was supposed to wrestle on Raw the night before, and what happened was we did a pre-shoot. I was in the locker room, and D'Lo Brown and I have been having a little bit of a feud. Kind of looked around, found his bag, you know, checked, made sure nobody was coming in, opened it up, leaned over, puked in his bag, and you know, zipped it back up and left. And it ended up showing on the screen that night on Raw because we were supposed to wrestle later that night. And it turned out it was about 10, a little after 10, we were up in the gorilla position, is where everybody goes to get ready, you know, before you go out for your match. And some of the matches had run long, and of course Raw was live. So we ended up getting bumped that night. So okay, we'll move it to tomorrow night. Okay, that's fine. And so, you know, I was all ready to go. I knew I was going to do some speaking on the mic and things like that. So I was like, okay, I get another night. Tuesday night, we ended up, you know, in Nassau Coliseum doing taping SmackDown. I found that, you know, I knew I was going to be doing some speaking, coming out. You know, I was basically talking smack. on D-Lo, you know, I was pointing up at the screen, they were going to re-show me throwing up, you know, puking in his bag. And, you know, I was just cutting a promo on him and the people in New York. And I came out, you know, that night I came out, you know, I cut the promo, I got up, you know, got up in the ring, still talking. You know, I remember D-Lo came running out. Boom, he hit the ropes, we did a couple moves. And then finally, I ended up putting him in a corner, I remember. I went and came running into the corner. I remember he kicked me in the stomach. And two things that I look back on that were, you know, just minor things at the time, but I always wrestle with my nipple, all my piercings, tongue, nose, ears, nipple, always wrestle with all my rings in. And that night, for some reason, I took my nipple ring out. Didn't think, you know, it wasn't any big deal. And I also wore a baggy shirt that I'd never worn before. It was like a holy black, like sweatshirt almost. And anyway, so we go through and he ends up kicking me in the stomach. He was going to give me a running powerbomb, which he had done before. We had wrestled a bunch of matches before. And then with that, he picked me up, and I remember going up, and I knew something wasn't right. And it just felt weird. I didn't go all the way up, and I just remember him moving, and I just remember going down, and I still remember hitting, and I heard two cracks. And I went, well, I basically said, oh fuck, I just broke my neck. And, you know, I was in shock, you know, of course, and I'm like, wow, and just thoughts are going through my mind. I knew I was in trouble. The ref came over, Teddy Long actually came over, he said, Roger, Teddy, I just broke my neck. You know, and of course, you know, they stopped it there. I remember Matt you know, Albert kind of coming in, and I'm talking, and I remember everything about it. You know, I remember people coming in, talking to me. You know, I was just like, you know, take your time, you know, do your thing. I knew I was screwed. I knew I was paralyzed, you know. I knew it was, I heard crack, crack, and I knew right there, that's when I said that, and I knew that I was paralyzed, and I couldn't move anything. You know, my head was to the side.
Now, you, like you said before, you had no idea what went wrong? It just,
no,
something was just off?
It just, yeah, you know, something just felt off, and, you know, and I talked to D-Lo about it, we talked to it after it, you know, right after, and, you know, times after that, and, you know, it was something, you know, I just wasn't, man, I don't know, I didn't go up all the way, like I said, I had a baggy shirt on, I might have slipped down a little bit, you know, I just know, and then, you know, I remember reading some stories that somebody threw something in the ring and he slipped on it, and you know, things like that. And you know, of course, people aren't going to know exactly. This will let people know exactly. You know, I talked to WWE a little before, you know, what happened, but you know, some people had heard that I slipped on something, things like that. But no, it just happened. It was, you know, I remember I said before when I broke one of the DOA brothers' nose, things happen in the ring, and you know, I knew, you know, things like that could happen, and you know, Owen had passed away. Owen Hart had actually passed away 6 months before in an accident, and you know, that was a real tough time for everybody. And then, you know, having that happen, and it just, something went wrong, whether, you know, I slipped down or whatever it was, you know, it was just something that happened in the ring. It wasn't anybody's fault, and you know, still to this day I feel that way. You know, that it happened. You know, that's how it is.
Speaking of friends, you know, you and D-Lo, how did he feel?
I mean, he felt horrible. I mean, you know, I'm sure it was in his mind, maybe he wanted to blame himself, but as I said, you know, after it happened, you know, he's apologizing, and, you know, we talked, and, you know, he still apologized. I said, look, man, I said, it's something that happened. I said, it could have happened to anybody. It happened to us. You know, there's nothing that you did wrong, nothing I did. It's just something that happened. And you know, I'm sure it was hard I'm sure his next bunch of matches were probably pretty weird for him. But you know, I never had any hard feelings or ill will, because you know, I knew the consequences and the other things that happened, you know, throughout my career. I mean, you know, I had ribs broken, concussions, you know, hit with chairs, split open, nothing to this, you know, magnitude, but it's something that happened in the ring, and it's part of it. You know, people talk about wrestling being really dangerous, and I mean, anything's dangerous. You know, I look at it this way: I could have, you know, tripped on a curb. You know, there was a person when I was in McGee who had tripped on a curb and fell and broke their neck, and they were paralyzed, or fall off a little footstool or something like that. I mean, it could have happened anyway. I mean, yeah, it's probably a lot easier, it's probably a lot easier to happen in a wrestling ring, but, it happens, things happen all the time, and you make the best of them and you deal with it.